Welcome back. You're still watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Now let's bring you some news from East Africa. When most of us were little, we didn't like to take instructions from our teachers in school. But if the allegations about Kenyan students actually being the ones behind the torching of over 100 schools is true, then they've taken it to a whole new level. Parents have been ordered to pay for the rebuilding of schools torched by arsonists in Kenya. In one school, that's Iterio Boys High School, where students burnt their dormitory after being denied a chance to watch a football match, parents have been told to pay about $98 each to meet the total cost of the repairs, which has been put at around $79,000. Other schools have set the payments at between $40 to $100, which some parents have complained they cannot afford. Joining us from Kenya is lead consultant for Sovereign Insights, Mr. Kimesop, to fill us in on more. Mr. Kimesop, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I hope I can say the same for you. Now, based on the directive given to parents to pay for rebuilding the schools, it's pretty clear that authorities believe that the students are actually behind the arson of these 100 schools. But do they have any proof?
I think if you remember our last conversation is that the causes for the fires are they're attributed to different people. Of course, there is the role of the teachers, the role of students, and also the communities around or factors beyond the schools. So, and considering that the schools have to move ahead, the country has to continue training and making progress on the right to education, which is constitutional. Somebody has to bear the cost. So, looking at how things are at some of the reasons why schools are being banned is also because of poor parenting. So I think when you put all those together, you can see somebody has to bear the cost. In this situation, it is the parents, and some may not be able to afford. That's when fundraising, what we call commonly Arambes, will help fill that void. So, but nonetheless, it's a community problem. It has to be shared across the board.
Yes, but we did some research, and some articles suggest that some of the students taught those schools did it because they wanted to go on holiday. Is the curriculum so tedious that they chose this method, or is it just plain laziness or poor parenting, like you say?
I think it is when you look at the history from the past, most of the strikes, arson, burning of schools usually takes place in the second term. This is when schools are under pressure to finalize the curriculum in preparation for the last or end of year examination. So there is a lot of pressure on the part of students. Some are fearful of examinations, and that's why with all that pressure and a heavy curriculum, you have such incidences. And I think this is one of the reasons why the country is currently undergoing an education sector reform, with a view of also appreciating the development of talent and not just grades.
Oh, well, Mr. Kimesop, what does the government plan to do in the case of parents who say they simply cannot afford to pay what they're being asked to pay?
Just pardon again, you said the parents doing what? If I can get to that again.
I said, what does the government plan to do as regards the case of, when dealing with the case of parents who say they cannot afford to pay this amount that they're being asked to pay for the rebuilding of the schools?
Policy is not made for one person. So policy is made when you aggregate the public interest over private interest. That's good policy. So the spirit of it is that that's what I was talking about, issues to do with We Are Africa, community support, fundraising, Arambes. But and the spirit of it is that parents will have to bear. Those who do not have, they have to come up with mechanisms, either bring collateral, sell cows, land. So those are the options. But the directive from government is that parents should bear this cost and also take more responsibility in raising and building upright young men, because this is a reflection of who they are. We cannot allow people to abandon their responsibilities. And also, I know government will chip in by ensuring that teachers are better remunerated, better inspired to take care of their responsibilities. So not that one person is bearing the sole responsibility, There is a joint engagement towards salvaging a situation that was moving towards the south.
Well, finally, Mr. Kimesop, when all is said and done and the students actually return to school, are there any measures that have been communicated by the government that it plans to put in place to ensure that incidents like this don't recur in the future?
Yes. One of them is that in the last communique that came from the minister responsible for education after meeting religious leaders is that the appreciation of counselings and establishment of chaplaincy services in most of the schools. So that's one thing that will be fast-tracked so that the students can have places for mentorship, a place for channeling their frustration and getting counsel. So that is one. The other thing is the ongoing education sector curriculum review, and then also the whole issue about mentorship and appreciating and inculcating values in our education system.
Well said. Mr. Vincent Kimesop, lead consultant for Sovereign Insight, thank you very much for joining us on Network Africa.
You're welcome.
Well, staying in Kenya, hundreds of drivers who signed up with ride-hailing service, that's Uber in Kenya, went on strike on Tuesday to protest against fare cuts. Uber operates in several African countries, including Kenya, and even here in Nigeria, where it launched in early 2015, joined customers by offering lower prices and cutting out haggling over fares.
The US-based firm, which started operations in the East African country in January 2015, is cutting total fares by up to 35% to boost demand for the service amid growing competition from local firms.
The reason we are here, it's because we have been grieved. And it is about the issue of cutting fares. And being a driver partner, I was not consulted. And that is one of the major reasons why we have decided to come on the street. Not because we don't love Uber. It's a good company, it's a good technology company, and we love working with it.
He says drivers were considering signing up with other ride-hailing companies like Little Cab, which was launched last month. There are at least 3 ride-hailing apps in Nairobi, and the services have not spread beyond the capital, heightening the scramble for customers. Uber, which allows users to book and pay for a taxi by smartphone, said the cuts were in the driver's interest as they would attract more customers, adding that it consulted with its drivers before cutting prices. Uber dropped the price per kilometer to 35 shillings from 60 shillings last week. It also cut the waiting rate per minute to 3 shillings from 4 shillings previously. Uber users in Kenya say regular taxi cabs have raised their fares in response to the strike at Uber. The drivers say they would all switch to Little Cab if Uber does not accede to their demands. Little Cab, which is jointly owned by telecoms operator Safaricom and local software developer Craft Silicon, was launched on July the 5th.
They cannot just come in, dominate, and take over people and make people be their slaves. And our main point is that Uber needs to have an alternate option whereby we're going to switch off all the driver online and we're going to go to another platform, which is Little Cabs, and they are ready for us as of we speak now.
Apart from a return to the old prices, the Taxi Association also wants Uber to cut its deductions from drivers to 15% of their earnings from the current 25%. Uber taxis draw many customers by offering low prices and cutting out haggling over fares.
Still to come on Network Africa, the Islamic State announces a new leader for what is its alleged West African branch.